in the hangar land lease, under term, lease shall be for a period of time commencing on the date hereof and expiring 25 years from the date of the signing of this lease, with a maximum increase, and I'm assuming that means maximum rental fee cost of no more than blank percent every other year from this term. And my question is, what is that? What is that percent increase? Is it part of the fee schedule that we'll see when you give us the fee schedules, or where is that defined?
I don't have the number, but I think that number doesn't automatically occur.
5%?
The new one was listed as 5, the old one is 3.
Is there a reason it's blank? If it's always 5, is there a reason
Well, I
it's
don't know
blank?
that it's always 5. I mean, if we get into some high inflation times where if we want to modify something, we don't want it cast in stone. We want to be able to.
Totally logical, understanding. If I'm signing this, if I want to buy a hangar in 1 second and do this, I want to know what I'm on the hook for potentially over 25 years.
Well, you'll know.
So is there
it'll be filled in when you sign the lease.
Okay, and then that figure is good for 25 years, because this says with a maximum increase of no more than X% every other year.
Right.
So this isn't the percent or your fee when you sign it, whatever it is. This is how much can the airport increase it every other year.
Correct. I mean, there will be an initial fee schedule of what is the fee getting in, and so I mean, it's going to be.
So anybody renting it, buying the hangar and signing the new lease, if you sold me your hangar and I now need a lease for the land from the town, when you sell it to me and we bring it to the town for approval, that'll be filled in.
Correct.
So I'll know it before I sign it, what that fee is going to be.
Yeah, the commission every first meeting of the year is setting the fee schedule for that year.
Okay.
All right, first one, we did come up with a figure, but I can't remember what it was.
So, to reiterate or clarify, annually, this is, the way I'm interpreting this is levy increase, right? We're allowed every year to go up X amount with the tax levy. We may choose to go under that, we may choose to go right up to it. That's what this percentage is, correct?
Correct.
So if, rather than having it blank, if the lease moving forward after May 1st, let's say, if the established policy by the airport commission, let's say, is 5%, could we not put in 5%? And then it would be a maximum of 5%. If the airport commission comes back and says, hey, we need to raise this to a maximum of 10% because of X, Y, or Z project that we've done, or X, Y, or Z improvement that has happened.
But I don't think we want to change the language of the lease. You know, if we deem 5% isn't enough and inflation is 10%,
right? And
now this word is locked in at 5, what do? Do we have to go to the board to ask for new language in the lease? That's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, suggestion?
That would be a new lease.
Why don't you put in there the maximum is the, whatever the percentage is that the government comes up with as far as increase in Social Security. I don't know how you define that number, but whatever, because with the condition our currency is in right now, if you look at the last 25 years, you probably might be talking triple.
COLA, you're saying with COLA, the cost of living.
Yes, put it as COLA, not to exceed COLA.
Right.
Then you don't have to ever change it.
The issue with what you're saying, Jeff, though, is this a 25-year lease?
Well, yeah, you're locked in for that 25
Right,
years.
but inflation in years 1 and 2 could be 10%. Years 10 through 15, it might be 3%. A lot changes in the economy over 25 years. So putting one in there, just putting something in at the inception date, that could end up being a hell of a deal for somebody, or could be a nightmare for somebody.
Well, COLA seems fair. Everybody
No,
looks at
I
it.
mean, I like a suggested COLA or something like that. It seems to make sense.
Well, then it's an adjustable rate mortgage. I mean, you want to sign up, I mean, I guess if you want a fixed rate mortgage, or do you want an adjustable rate mortgage? So maybe that should be a choice, you know, what the person wants to sign up for. I mean, a lot of people sign up for a fixed rate mortgage and they know their interest rate forever.
Right, so there's two different catch-22s on either one of these. If we were to draft this and say maximum of no more than 20% every other year, okay, and be super safe, and leave the administrative part of here's what our fee schedule is up to the airport commission, and they choose 2%, or they choose 4, or they one year decide to choose 11, and then they go to 3, and they go to 1, and they go to 6. That's the ceiling would be set. The problem with that, if you lower it and say 5%, is that if I sign a lease tomorrow and it's 5%, I've got that for 25 years. So there's my fixed rate mortgage. And it would only be for new lease execution that a 10% or a 12% or whatever would happen. So what we're doing by putting any percent, whether it's blank or whether it says 5, 10, 20, whatever, we're setting that fixed rate mortgage, period. It's anybody new that would then be affected by a 12% rather than a 10.
Right, once you sign up for the lease, that number is locked in, that's a fixed rate mortgage.
So to that point, we could put in no more than 5% every year.
No, I don't know if you want to do that.
No more than means it could be 5
Right.
or 3.
No more
2,
than
1,
5%.
or 0.
That way I know that my rent will never go up more than 2.5% a year.
Correct.
Oh, for you as an individual signing that lease today?
Correct.
Correct.
Oh yeah, well, that's gonna have a number in it.
Right, so that's my point, is can we put in 5%? And if,
Well, no, I
if-
mean,
But that's,
No
but
more
that
than-
means it's that percent all 25 years, so there's gonna be 12 adjustments, 12 and a half adjustments.
Right.
Because it's every other year for 20,
right,
12 and a half adjustments.
so say inflation next year is 10%.
Mhm.
Now our lease says 5%, and we want that number to be higher, then we have to create another, go through the board and create another lease?
so if the term of, this is the catch-22 part, is that if the lease is blank, we're giving control to a blank check.
No.
Yes.
You're writing a number in there when you issue that lease,
You're locking them in for 25 years.
25 years. Next year, somebody buys a new lot,
But
and now that number is maybe different than 5, maybe
Right,
it's
so
higher.
the terms of the lease would then change. If the air, let's just say, if this year it's 5%, okay, and the airport commission decides to use the 5%, and next year they want to change it to 6, the term of the lease legally changed to a maximum of 6%. This is a legally binding document, and that requires the board to approve the new lease.
It'd be a new lease every
So-
time you change it.
Correct.
Every year you're going to,
No, that's why I'm asking if we put a maximum of 10% and you choose 2 for now until the day I'm dead. The maximum is 10%. If it gets to the point where inflation, I mean, if you guys are looking at 2.5% every year, and this was generally the recommendation to go to 10% every year, let's say, worst case, is, no, 10% every year. They wanna really capture the inflation crunch that we're in. That's a whole different economic ballpark.
I don't
Of the
think you're gonna, I
functionalities
mean,
of the
ask any
airport.
of the current hangar owners if they would sign up for a 10 or 20%.
Right, and that would then be, the town board's concern, is that everybody terminates their lease and we're left with 68 empty buildings out there.
Period.
Because 4 other people decided, drive it into the ground, who cares?
if I run.
Right, like that's,
So
we are
you're
here
concerned
to,
that we're gonna raise it too high?
we are here to protect this for the next 100 years. Every decision is a 100-year outlook. Changing 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 8 to 2, that's changing the terms of the lease, period. Am I wrong?
No.
No.
That, as the statute says, needs to be a new lease. If we set it high and you guys choose to effectuate it low, it goes on in perpetuity.
And that's.
But if we set it at 5 and next year you want 6, that's a new lease. And yes, then we would have everybody pre-2026 May 1 signing this lease.
No, you're not gonna go back and change everybody's lease that signed the lease prior to it.
I 100% agree with you. I'm not arguing with you. I 100% agree with you.
And
It would be a new lease from May 1, 2026 moving forward. That again would be a new lease. A new lease.
Do we wanna do this?
for 2 years.
Or do we want to take it out and give them no security whatsoever?
No, I think they need
Then
to
we-
have security.
Then we need to put
Well,
it.
so you're talking about high, if I rent one during a high inflation period, let's say, put 10% in there, or 15%, and 3 years later, inflation's only 2%, I'm getting hammered for the rest of that contract.
It's a
No, it's
maximum.
up to.
Maximum.
It's up to it. So that 1 year, you might pay 10%.
Right, so
The
what do you-
next year, you're gonna pay.
So you're gonna put in a maximum of 15%, I'm not gonna sign it.
You're correct, I'm not gonna sign it either.
I'm not gonna
But
sign it
if the
for
number's too
15%.
big, people are gonna go, no.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying you leave it blank, so that they know the number they're getting at the time that
You
they're
can't do that, you
exchanging
can't, it's
lease.
gotta have a number on it to be a lease.
I mean,
That's right.
I don't know if COLA is the right number, but the suggestion there at least ties it to something. Right. Now, and I don't know if you wanna tie it to the inflation rate, you wanna tie it to COLA, there's something else these companies, it's this plus that, I don't remember what that is, but there's a
The thing that takes a lot
financial
of
term.
He's got the word.
the CPI.
I actually have seen this term, and lawyers probably familiar with it. You reference the CPI as published in
That's
the Wall
right.
Street Journal
Right,
on, I think it's January 15th or some
plus
date.
something.
Yeah, and
CPIU takes a bunch of the material things that they include in CPI out of it, so it's like your baseline, you know, utilities, your foods, or just not your price of blue jeans and not your price of sneakers and all that kind of stuff. So CPIU is kind of your utilitarian version of the whole thing, and we'd have to pick a date to
If I
establish.
could make an observation, I'm hearing you guys don't seem to be understanding each other.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You think he's wanting to make a lease with a blank line in it.
That's
He
not,
wants the blank line because when I sit down today, he's gonna put the number in that's appropriate for today. And I think that makes a sense too, but to protect both sides, I believe that having, well, it doesn't matter, the lessor is a lessee, whatever you call him if I rent the hangar.
Oh, no, I get it, if the number is small, making it
Yes,
is perfect. But if it's high inflationary, like you said, and they wanna stick a 15% number in there, I'm not gonna rent it. Cause inflation's gonna go up and down every
Well,
year, and if all of a sudden it drops to 3% like it is today, approximately. I'm getting screwed, right?
but he's the guy trying to rent the hangar, he knows whatever number he can't run people off with that number because the guy just picks up his briefcase and leaves.
Right.
So he said,
But
okay,
again,
if you want
but
me.
again, if I'm putting my name on this, and I'm treating this like, these people who agreed to this, none of them are here 8 years from now. It's a legal document that attorneys look at, I'm screwed if it's 15%.
No, I mean, the number.
It's not for everybody, it's everybody, he changes the number based on what happens.
No, I'm not saying everybody,
Anybody.
it's my lease that I'm signing, that he put 15% there,
And you wouldn't sign it.
I wouldn't.
Well, so he'll have to lower it in order to get you to sign it.
Well, let me
That's
rephrase,
how it works.
if inflation's at 15%, hopefully we don't go back to the 70s. If inflation's at 15%, maybe I would sign it, but I'm not gonna sign it for 25 years. There's gotta be some, if you're talking a 2-year contract like some of these are,
that's
fine,
okay.
pick a number.
Right.
But if you're doing a 25-year lease, you gotta have some adjustment factor. You have to.
They have all kind of measurements that follow that, that's what my suggestion was.
Do you want, gentlemen, do you want the commission to look at that figure?
I'm not gonna be the guy to pick the number, flat out. I don't, like, my investment is not in that. My point is that if this says increase of no more than blank %, that is, aside from the hangar number, and the date that it's signed and who's signing it, that number should be in a document. That should not be, not even saying you, 2 years from now, right? This is how embezzlement works. You put in 8%, you're the airport manager, you get 3% right off the top and it never shows up. That's the issue, right? Like, this is government accounting all the way
He's
around.
being hypothetical, Jeff, he's not.
I said you're gone, right? So I cleared you from the air of this whole thing. If this is blank and it doesn't have a number in there, it can be whatever, whoever is
When do you
signing
think
it
the number
says.
appears in that blank?
There's no number in this document. That's my point.
It isn't signed that way. That's what you guys don't
That's a
understand.
form, that's a form,
No, it's a contract.
This is a lease.
Legal document.
that's the.
But it's
form of the
incomplete
lease.
right now 'cause
It
there's
doesn't
no
have a
number
name.
there.
It doesn't have a fee schedule, that is determined by the commission at the beginning of each year. Those numbers will be available to put in that thing in the beginning of each year by the commission.
This does not say that.
Order.
This
Let's
says,
just be ordered.
hang on, this says percent here to increase every other year. It doesn't say to be decided every other year and changed. It says the number that's in here is there every other year.
It will be
It doesn't
filled
say it's
in
adjustable.
prior to anybody signing that thing, so.
It still doesn't
We
say it's
understand, like, I understand you fill this in. I'm not that dumb. I understand this gets filled in and that number is chosen at a point in time. My point is that if you change the term of the lease on an annual basis, right, it changes the lease. So we either need to put it in a fee schedule, we either need to take it out, or put in more language that says the airport commission decides the maximum allowance on a 2-year rotational basis. Whatever that, however that works, but the way that it is currently worded leaves this open to whatever the number is. And there literally could be 68 individual leases at some point in time, because each one of them have a different annual escalator.
Here's my
If you
suggestion.
go to a bank, you get a fixed rate mortgage, they don't have a number in that form. That form gets filled out by the bank at the time.
You
When they
sign
issue
it, right?
And as long as that percent is low, people aren't gonna have a problem with it. If it's whatever, here's my suggestion.
Table it until the next.
No, here's my suggestion. The airport commission's got an upcoming meeting. Hopefully. Discuss this. Cal, I would suggest you assign somebody to talk to financial people, whatever, come up with that adjustable, whatever figure options, and then talk about it at your meeting and decide what you wanna do.
Okay.
Because we could keep going back and forth on this.
Okay.
The other suggestion I would make is, and I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's like a severability clause that says, to Josh's point, if you change this, it opens up the contract. It's a severability or something else, but there's a name for it, a clause that says, if a contract or whatever is opened up to discuss one clause, it doesn't make the whole contract come up for discussion. It's just that one issue. And I think it's severability or something like that.
It is.
That way, if something does come up, if there's a disagreement, something has to be adjusted, you can work on a single clause without voiding the whole contract.
Moving on, let's talk about a different part of this if you want to.
We're at D, what else we gotta talk about? Oh, within D, I'm sorry.
On term, the last sentence, they'll notify the lesser upon transfer of ownership. Let's make sure that's, because there is a transfer clause in here. Let's just make sure that that statement is in a, I'm not saying it's not, let's just make sure that statement is aligned with clause 13 on transfer. It may already be, but let's just make sure on that.
So can the original leasee transfer this to a family member without disrupting the contract?
With the consent of the lessor.
So does that mean a new lease is going to be issued upon the transfer, or?
Well, the way it's written now, it would be the same lease as transferred from the person.
So selling it to somebody is the same as transferring it to a family member?
No. Selling it to an unrelated person would not be the same as transferring it to a family member.
Well, that's what I just asked.
Sale is different than transfer.
Well, that's what I just asked. If this was transferred to another family member, can they just carry the lease on as is without having to apply for a brand new lease?
During the term of this lease, leasee shall not assign, hypothecate, or transfer this agreement or any interest therein without the consent of the leaseor, which consent shall not be unreasonably withheld. It is specifically understood and agreed, there needs to be a D in there, that leasee may not sublease the leased premises or any portion thereof. That's what lease transfer says.
Right, but so transferring it to a family member means a new lease.
Well, the board here will have to give permission for that, but right off the top of my head, speaking for myself, I can't come up with a good reason why that would happen.
And that should be for anyone.
Well, yeah.
That lease goes with, that property moves on to anybody, but it has to be requested.
Well, the lease is for 25 years. What that was saying is it can be transferred to another person. If it's a family member, they would still have to sign it because they're signing responsibility of.
The transfer has to still go, because that's going, the transfer.
I would assume it'd be a transfer or a new document, but none of the terms may change.
That's correct.
Yeah, the terms are same, but it has to be a new
I don't
document.
know that we've discussed that. A family member, I would think that'd be reasonable.
But they have to be transferred the same, because the lease needs to go to their name.
So then we need to put in a section about the difference between a lease transfer and a sale.
I think so, I mean, it's not
Their
clear.
lease sale should be a transfer.
I thought you just read it, that it said it could be done with board approval,
There needs to be a request.
which should not be reasonably withheld, I think is how you worded it.
Well, they own the real property, then.
Right.
Well,
This is about the land.
To me, it's simple. If it's a family member, we could probably agree that we transfer the lease. If it's somebody unrelated, to me, that's a sale, and they should be subject to whatever a new occupant
No,
would be subject
that's
to.
not what the lease says. And that's, and
No,
that,
no,
you
I'm
don't.
not saying that. I'm saying that's what I think it should be. If we have to adjust the language.
No, then that makes our buildings worth nothing. That we lose the value of that building on your land.
Say that again.
We lose the value of our building on that land because that lease goes with that building for the 25-year lease.
Yeah.
And it's not reasonably withheld transfer to a new person, family member or outside person.
Well, family member I could see. I understand what you're saying. To me, if it's a sale, why wouldn't, or let's say somebody wants to sell it 13 years into it, so there's 12 years left, correct? Why wouldn't the airport want the additional revenue from higher rent for those last 12 years if it's somebody totally unrelated to the family?
That's the advantage of me signing a 25-year lease, and that building to guarantee that's there for that purpose for 25 years.
So what Rick's saying is that, I'm using wrong numbers. If his building's worth 50 grand, with the lease written, that he can transfer 12 years to someone else, it's worth 50 grand. If it says that if he's gonna sell it, there's a new lease, his building may be worth 35 grand instead.
Because the land lease is gonna go up.
Correct,
Yeah.
people are gonna look at it and say,
Yeah, unlike a T hangar which has no investment, we have a substantial investment.
I can see that.
Okay, now,
I can see
the
that.
other thing,
It's reasonable.
now, if the new lease that you have, the first lease should be the one that's under that property at the time of the sale. But now if the new lease is a better lease, give that new owner more term, there's something in there they would like. I know, like, instead of 12 years, it's 25, well, then the option that he could sign that new lease.
right,
Well, that should be up to the person who's being
Purchase.
sold to. If they wanna take the lower cost for 12 years, or
Right.
if they say, no, I want 25 years, so I'll pay the higher price, that's, yeah, I can see where
If the lease is
the
written,
buyer's
so
decision.
it should be a buyer's decision.
Yeah.
then I think we just need to clarify to Jeff's point that Transfer can mean a whole bunch of different stuff depending on what level of legalese you're at. Transfer can be, here you go, Rob, right? Or it could be re-signing a lease, because realistically, that's what we want, is somebody's signature on the back of this thing that says, I'm running this through term X, right? But here's my name, date, title, stamp, all that kind of thing. I think we need to make that clear that it's either through inheritance, let's say, or sale. So that people know, you then can give this to me and say, hey, this is locked in for another 12 years.
Okay, but the other thing that needs to happen, which there needs to be a procedure for this to happen. When Don died, that kind of fell away to the wayside.
Yeah.
And then the request, which I've seen that form, that's good. But then that's gotta go in there for family member or whatever, and then it's just transferred. But, the procedures need to be put, that's kind of a little off the lease, but the procedure of the transfer and what happens to that lease needs to be outlined with the commission or whoever. That's kind of important, because that got lost when we lost Don.
That's what the transfer document is.
I see procedures coming in now.
I mean, this is similar to a grave site, right? Like, you buy a grave site, you're gonna give it to me, right? Unless I've got a transfer document, I don't have any right to it whatsoever. You come in with a formal will, you know.
So the procedures for
something
this
to that
transfer
effect.
needs to be
Right.
outlaid, which I think they are now. And then we just need to follow through with that. And then the approval process for the board, how that's gonna be done, that needs to be set out.
So then the only person that's gonna get one of these new leases is a builder of a new hangar.
Yes.
Yes.
So all the existing lease, so the only person that's gonna get this new lease is a brand new build site.
The hangar's
Or
here,
somebody who buys one of the hangars
Wants 25.
and wants a 25-year lease.
Their option.
Instead of the
Yeah.
3 years.
This is not a requirement to get this new lease upon a sale of a hangar. You can write out the old lease.
But we still need the template for the contract in case the buyer wants a 25-year lease.
Correct, yes.
We still need the template.
Or
We
any of the
need
existing
to sell that lease, at least make it so people understand it. As a hangar owner, I should have that new lease there so I can see it and make that opportunity if I want to sell it.
Here's what it is today, here's what it is if I want to take
They got
25 years instead of 5 years.
Right, and then the only other comment I wanna do, the 25 years lease, when do you want to start these leases? Do you want them, I think Rick Martin knows more about this, but most of the first leases that are out there, they end in 37. Okay, and they're all on the date 37. Now, if you issue a lease today or a year from now, are you gonna have them all, like, if you implement this lease, when do you want it to expire? 25 years from today or 25 years from the signing? Where the issue comes in, if you've got, say, one hangar this year, 10 next year, you'll have different lease endings on different years. And I think that's one of the reasons Don Hagan did the 37, so they all end at the same time. He knows more about that.
and that's true. I remember Don commenting, it was easier accounting wise. However, that was back before computerization. I don't know if that's as big of a deal today. I'm not sure how Jeff is keeping track of that, if it is computerized, but.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't matter. But when can these people renew the lease that they have coming up in 37? I mean, at any time.
Tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. After the new one's approved, I mean, they would be able to say, yeah, good enough deal, we
Well,
bought it for 25.
Well, would we want, we being the town and the airport, want to let somebody, a lease that runs through 37, add 25 years to it today? Is that what you're saying? Extend it by 25? Would anybody want to do that? I mean, that's 12 years from now. Who knows what costs are gonna be at that point?
But it depends on what this lease looks like.
Yeah, and I would think we'd wanna have maybe a 5-year. I'm picking up a number of years. I don't know that we would want to allow somebody at this point to add 25 years to 37. We don't know what the costs would be.
No, you said that here.
But if you issue a new lease, what would it be?
Well, if you issued a new lease,
Oh,
for
so
example,
we're
start
up
May
to start
1st,
it today, you mean?
Yes.
25
So we're
years.
really getting a 13-year extension?
Correct.
So you actually have in the room, a transfer, a case right here. He's selling to him today.
And what do you think of this whole conversation?
Seller's remorse.
They just came in to see who.
That would have been a good disclosure to start with there, Mike. I mean,
I can tell there's some sanity coming into play, so I'm okay with it.
I mean, realistically, if, again, this is like an airport.
Can you say
commission.
that louder for the camera?
This is, to me, this is an airport commission thing. How do you guys want this to get set up?
Yeah.
You know, I generally agree with Don's theory that you pick a date.
37.
And if you sign, you know, the likelihood, how many times have these leases changed between the original ones and 2037?
Twice.
You pick a date
So,
or
This
rate.
is the third time.
You know, so there's a possibility that it's gonna change before your due date again. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we do it in 2025 and say it's a 25-year lease, or it's a lease through 2050,
I think it's
that's
just-
one thing. Or is it 25 years from the date that you signed it? I think that's an airport commission decision on how you guys wanna.
So when you buy this,
Lock it
are you
up,
wanting
you know.
the remaining 12 years, or do you want it 25 years from today? How are you looking at
If
that?
I were a family member, I would want to probably preserve the contract, but in good faith, I'm coming in and I'm saying I'm a new lessor. And so I would expect to pay the
Leasing.
terms,
Leasing.
leasing. I would expect to pay the terms that have been established from this date.
So you want to go ahead and have a new lease for 25 years?
And I think that's reasonable.
Like we said earlier, we think it should be up to who's ever buying to make that decision for themselves.
But I think there's, you know, like inheritance and transfer and that kind of thing, there's already guidelines for that. To me, when you buy something new, you don't get all the, it's not like you transfer to warranty or whatever it might be, but, you know, I think there's some precedent.
Right, the only other question I have on D for the land lease is, and it may not apply to this one, but there's no termination clause. Would a termination clause really apply in this situation? Because you're gonna sell the hangar, you're not just gonna cancel, you still own the hangar.
Yeah.
You're not gonna walk away from the land lease because you still own the hangar, right?
Well,
You really can't.
in your case.
You can if you take the building down and take the concrete away.
Yeah.
What is in the original lease that we have now?
It's automatically renewed.
I don't think it's in there.
I think it's in there.
You can take it with you, but you have to put the property
You
back.
gotta take the building, you gotta put the property back.
It's in all of it.
It says, annual lease term.
Property back.
Not feasible.
You need to- So are we done with this?
Yeah, I mean, from the airport commission standpoint, do you guys know what we're kind of looking for out of this? This percentage piece of the puzzle, and then how the 25 or 2050 version of a 25-year lease would.
I do.
I mean, I think those are two big pieces for this one. The rest of them, absolutely take, if you guys are meeting about any of these, and there's some way that we can glue these other four together to make two.
We're down to three.
But the two that we're gonna take, the four that we're gonna take and combine into two, if there's a way that we can glue that together to give the airport commission a draft, if they've got any other, like, now is the time to do this. If you guys think there's some other term, some other something, whatever,
Right.
of draft 7.0 that we're on, or whatever it is, like, now would be the good time to voice that concern, that interest, that opinion, that recommendation, all of those things is kind of the.
Yeah, and I think we all want to get this behind us.
Yes.
And I hope everybody after hearing all the discussion